Hugo Rafael Chávez Frías was one of the most influential, controversial, and polarizing leaders in modern Latin American history. His life was marked by a blend of charisma, ambition, revolutionary ideals, and a deep commitment to transforming Venezuela's political and social landscape. Born into modest circumstances, Chávez rose to the presidency of Venezuela and held power for 14 years, leaving behind a complex legacy of admiration and criticism. Early life and background. Hugo Chávez was born on July 28, 1954, in Sabaneta, a small rural town in Barinas State, Venezuela. He was the second of 7 children in a family of school teachers. Though his family was not wealthy, Chávez grew up with a strong sense of community and empathy for the poor, qualities that shaped his later political vision. Raised primarily by his grandmother, Rosa Inés Chávez, young Hugo was instilled with discipline, Catholic values, and respect for Venezuelan folk traditions. From an early age, Chávez demonstrated a passion for sports, particularly baseball, dreaming of becoming a professional player. This aspiration was never realized, but it gave him a strong sense of discipline and perseverance. He also developed a love for Venezuelan history and was deeply inspired by national heroes like Simón Bolívar and Ezequiel Zamora, figures who would later become central to his revolutionary ideology. Military career and political awakening. At the age of 17, Chávez entered the Venezuelan Military Academy in Caracas, where he began formal training as an officer. He graduated in 1975 with a degree in military sciences and engineering. While serving in the army, he was exposed to the inequalities and corruption plaguing Venezuelan society. Chávez saw firsthand the wealth gap between the elite and the struggling majority, sparking his resentment toward the political establishment. During his military service, Chávez began forming secret circles of like-minded officers who were committed to social reform and political change. These groups later evolved into the Movimiento Bolivariano Revolucionario 200, MBR 200, named after Simón Bolívar and designed to promote nationalist, anti-corruption, and socialist ideals. Chávez's admiration for Bolívar became the foundation of what would later be called Bolivarianism, a central theme in his political career. The 1992 coup attempt. By the late 1980s, Venezuela was facing severe economic crises, rising poverty, and political instability. In February 1989, violent riots known as the Caracazo erupted in Caracas following unpopular austerity measures. The repression of these protests, which led to hundreds of deaths, deeply influenced Chávez's conviction that Venezuela's political system needed radical change. On February 4, 1992, Chávez and his allies staged a coup attempt against President Carlos Andrés Pérez. The attempt failed, but Chávez's short televised address before his arrest made him a household name. In his speech, he famously declared that their goals had not been achieved por ahora, for now, a phrase that became symbolic of his persistence. Though imprisoned for 2 years, Chávez's image as a bold, anti-establishment figure captured the imagination of many Venezuelans, particularly the poor and disenfranchised. Rise to power. In 1994, Chávez was pardoned by President Rafael Caldera. Seizing the opportunity, he left the military and entered politics. He founded the Fifth Republic Movement, MVR, a political party that emphasized social justice, anti-corruption measures, and economic independence. In 1998, Chávez ran for the presidency of Venezuela. Promising to end the dominance of the traditional political parties and to empower the poor, he won a decisive victory with strong grassroots support. His election marked the beginning of a new era in Venezuelan politics. Presidency and the Bolivarian Revolution. Chávez took office in 1999, immediately calling for a new constitution, which was approved later that year by referendum. The new constitution expanded presidential powers, promoted participatory democracy, and changed the country's official name to the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. During his presidency, Chávez launched the Bolivarian Revolution, a series of social, political, and economic reforms aimed at redistributing wealth, nationalizing industries, and improving access to healthcare, education, and housing. Funded largely by Venezuela's vast oil reserves, his government implemented missions, or social programs, that dramatically improved literacy rates, reduced poverty, and expanded medical services, especially in rural and underserved areas. Chávez also reoriented Venezuela's foreign policy. He was a vocal critic of U.S. influence in Latin America and cultivated strong ties with countries like Cuba, Iran, Russia, and China. He positioned himself as a leader of the global left, advocating for a multipolar world order and supporting regional integration initiatives like ALBA, Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of Our America. Challenges and controversies. Despite his popularity among Venezuela's poor, Chávez's presidency was fraught with challenges. In 2002, he briefly lost power in a coup supported by sectors of the military and business community but was restored after massive popular protests. His policies of nationalization and price controls drew criticism from business leaders and international organizations. Opponents accused him of authoritarianism, mismanagement of the economy, and undermining democratic institutions. His government frequently clashed with private media outlets, leading to accusations of restricting press freedom. By the late 2000s, Venezuela began to experience economic difficulties, particularly due to over-reliance on oil revenues and falling oil prices. Inflation, shortages of basic goods, and growing public discontent became persistent issues. Illness and final years. In 2011, Chávez announced that he had been diagnosed with cancer. Despite undergoing several rounds of treatment in Cuba, his health continued to decline. He was re-elected in 2012 for another 6-year term, but his condition prevented him from attending the inauguration. On March 5, 2013, Hugo Chávez died in Caracas at the age of 58. His death was met with grief from his supporters, who saw him as a champion of the poor and a defender of sovereignty, while critics viewed his legacy as one of economic mismanagement and authoritarian rule. Legacy. Hugo Chávez's impact on Venezuela and Latin America is undeniable. To his supporters, he was a revolutionary hero who gave voice to the marginalized and challenged global imperialism. To his detractors, he was a populist who squandered Venezuela's oil wealth and weakened democratic institutions. Chávez's Bolivarian revolution left behind a Venezuela deeply divided, but his influence continues to shape the country's politics. His chosen successor, Nicolás Maduro, inherited both his movement and the immense challenges that came with it. Conclusion. Hugo Chávez's life journey from a poor rural boy with dreams of baseball to a military officer, revolutionary, and finally president epitomizes a story of ambition and conviction. His leadership reshaped Venezuela, inspiring millions while generating intense criticism. Whether seen as a visionary or a demagogue, Chávez remains a defining figure in 21st-century Latin American history, whose legacy continues to fuel debates about democracy, socialism, and the role of leadership in addressing inequality.